I mean, that's an acceptable answer, and that's something that I can quantify and figure out whether it's viable or not. I mean,
Okay, I think that yes. Kim?
I just had a question about the proportions. It's like, I understand you have a problem, I understand you want to get the access from the cellar, but one of the pictures,
that's not my entrance. That's the one down the street.
I understand, but
Yeah.
I'm saying that one is closer to a proportion that you could use, where you had the full door and you had windows, and you had the window here, and the entrance could come right under that window. You would actually
No,
have that
yeah.
kind of storefront.
I don't mind
and it
changing my
would be in
storefront entirely if I
proportion.
need to. I mean,
But
like,
I'm saying-
but that's something we had presented, which was trying to make these windows, operable windows this way, or actually folding in because they can't go over the.
I'm just looking at the 1980 tax photo, which is
Yeah.
closer to what you're doing, and it's in proportion. So
I mean, we had
It
presented
is-
alternate ideas, but the end result you're seeing today
that one,
is from, lots
Which-
of iterations back and forth.
which looks like a typical, storefront. It's like you bring the storefront
Yeah, I
down
mean,
to the
it's kind
ground,
of like
and
a
then
store-
there's
yeah.
a step there,
There's
and
a-
it
it's
doesn't
almost like a
resolve
storefront.
itself. So if you had something closer to the door with the windows, and you can come right under, the proportion would work.
I don't have a problem with altering the storefront to do that.
I do?
That- I mean,
Yeah.
as I said, that's the kind of direction I'm looking for that will work with everyone to get this to work.
And even if you went from the iron to something more solid, and you had it come around as a base instead, not like a picket fence, but more solid on one side.
Yeah, I mean,
you'd
the
actually
fence
resolve
we
that.
were just trying to mimic the neighbor just to show some continuity
Mm-hmm.
with the streetscape.
Yeah, but, that neighbor's taller. His works because he has more height, and yours
You're
is
saying
so
the
short.
storefront.
Yes.
John?
Whatever the solution is here, I think we need, as a commission, to keep in mind that we're setting a precedent for literally hundreds and hundreds of buildings that are designed precisely like this one. So whatever we do, this is not going to be the last time that someone asks to place something that blocks one half of a storefront in a historic district. So whatever the solution, I think we have to be prepared to say, okay, that's going to keep happening.
Right, and I think I mentioned that, and what I heard from the applicant was that, in fact, this is not a situation that you're going to see, because
This isn't normal, yeah, we went and got a pre-consideration for this unique situation where the egress hallway existed since iCards, were done back in the early 90s.
So what you're saying is, if it wasn't ever sort of accepted as a second means of egress,
I would have never been able to do this. Yeah, I mean, I have so many clients come to me and say, hey, make the sidewalk hatch a second means of egress. And 9 times out of 10, or 9.99 times out of 10, I say no, because you can't do that. In this case, we found documentation that had always been used as an egress. So we went to the department and said, look, this was used as an egress. We would like to continue to use egress. We want to change the use of this small portion of the cellar. Can you let us? And they said, yes, just do this. But basically, essentially, it was exit signs, switch the swing of a door, and, basically, originally what they had said in the pre-con for the hatch was to put chain around it and a sign that says, no one can sit here, and put a push bar. I mean, and that's how we originally filed with the department. The process went as it does, and it got to a point, with the examiner who got hung up on the way that was worded. He couldn't go back to the person that wrote it because they had retired.
And the
Now-
reason that it is an exception, or that and the documentation that you found about its being used as egress, is why? Is it because there was an enclosed or a separate hallway below?
There
That's
is, yeah.
No,
There
I
is,
know
there
there
always
is, but
has.
is that unusual? What made this be so exceptional, that it was an example of egress through the cellar?
Because the accepted second means of egress is from the fire escape or from the back of the commercial space down into the cellar, through a hallway, and then up through a sidewalk hatch.
So what was that documentation that you found that was so
the
exceptional?
iCards, the HPD iCards, which were drawn out, and clearly every floor is drawn, and it's chose it as an egress passageway. It says this is, you know, the legal exit from the secondary means of egress from the building.
I think there are other mitigating factors
Yeah.
here that prevent this from becoming a widespread barn door open to all kinds of abuses. I mean, it is on Atlantic Avenue, which is an unusually wide street. I think, you know, and we always have discretion to judge it, even if we said it once before.
Okay, yes.
I just think keep in mind, I think in terms of the precedent issue, simply, and this always comes up when the commission's trying to allow sort of an adaptive reuse of something, and that's really what this is, even though this is a prior means of egress, apparently, which is that, you know, we are not bound to approve adaptive reuses if the impact on the architectural features are deemed to be too significant. And so we try hard, as everyone around this table is doing right now, but ultimately it's the level of alteration required to make this a legal use that we should keep in mind, because that's really going to be the precedent issue, is how much are we going to be allowing the storefront to be modified and something in front of a storefront to accommodate this use.
That's the categories.
All right. Any other comments? All right. My suggestion is that I think we should allow them to go back and at least look at some options that would make sure that the frontage works better. And I think then we can evaluate whether we feel it can meet the level of appropriateness. You know, it's an interesting thing over here, which is that we're really talking about the realm of sidewalks, and very often in our historic districts we're looking at the buildings themselves. There are all kinds of things that happen on sidewalks. I agree with Commissioner Gustafson, which is this kind of a door opener, because it seems unusual. We've seen a lot of hatches. Many of our districts have them. This seems kind of an unusual thing where you've started creating an entrance in a hatch that historically was never really an entrance with a staircase. And I also appreciate Commissioner Goldblum's suggestion, but I think the problem with this particular building is that it doesn't have the facade to kind of orient the staircase in a different way, which functions like an areaway, and would at least have a different, it'll allow you to actually maintain the storefront without any intervention if you had the staircase reoriented parallel to the building facade. But since the frontage is so narrow, you wouldn't be able to get that access. So I think you can hear that the commissioners have a lot of concerns. If this is something that you feel you absolutely have to do as a part of the program, then in that case, I think the commission should look to see whether there's a solution that works better. So yes, you're balancing these very odd things, which is, you know, how much of the storefront, if it's historical, do you want to take out? I think our initial response is, well, do the least amount of intervention. But I think you still have to find a way to make this read as something which is not sort of slapdash, that, okay, here's where the line came and we're just cutting it off, and we retained everything else. So I think there have been some suggestions here, and perhaps you could work with staff and see if you could come up with something and bring it back.
Sure. I mean, I guess my question to you is just that with the preference I'm feeling is that if we can make this area work without affecting the storefront at all, it's something that could be acceptable. Or conversely, I'm wondering, because Kim brought it up, Commissioner Laws, is there a possibility that if we alter the storefront entirely to make it something that is more compatible with the look of that areaway, you know, I think it's 187, you know, is that something alternatively acceptable?
Which is 187.
Sorry, this guy right here. 183, sorry. You know, where how she was saying is that the storefront, instead of, you know, trimming off the bottom of the doors, it really just becomes a show window or windows, and that is, you know, a wood infill, and that wood infill kind of goes over like it would normally in a storefront in some other districts.
All right. I think if I had to sort of take the pulse of the commission, I think probably it'd be better to, if this is a historic storefront, I think it isn't?
It's
Okay.
not, no.
Okay. So in that case, I don't know, commissioners, are there concerns about them actually creating a storefront that would be better integrated?
Yeah, I mean, I think that
Okay.
it's all right to, a new storefront. On the other hand, your point, Chair, was that, you know, just because, and you didn't say this exactly, but just because it was used as an emergency exit doesn't mean that we necessarily need to consider it as an entrance to a restaurant. I mean, I think that that's a big shift. So I think that's the fundamental problem, but that, yes, if we agree to that, then a revision of the entire, change to the entire facade to incorporate that new entrance to the basement would be appropriate.
Okay? All right, thank you.
That's exactly what it's doing.
Okay, and we close the hearing.
Okay, Commissioners,